morning, Year 8. So today we are looking at a different poem, but our Do Now activity is on the board in front of you, and these are linked to the poem that we are looking at. So what I want you to do is answer these questions. So how do these images make you feel? And then write a list of adjectives you would use to describe these images, please. Off you go. Okay then, so our title today is To Understand the Poem Decomposition, and today's date is Tuesday. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Sorry. Tuesday the 26th. All right. So, today's title, looking at decomposition, and our outcomes are here. Okay. No key vocab to understand what the poem is about and to create an image representing the poem. Right then, I'd like you to jot down in your books on a piece of paper, please, the key vocabulary for this lesson. So we've got 4 words. Number 1, decomposition, so that means something rotting or decaying. Number 2, Bombay, which is a city in India. Number 3, compose, so having your feelings or emotions under control. And bemuse, to be confused. This is the poem then, so I'm going to read it to you and then we're going to go over it together. I have a picture I took in Bombay of a beggar asleep on the pavement, grey-haired, wearing shorts and a dirty shirt, his shadow thrown aside like a blanket. His arms and legs could be cracks in the stone, roots for the ant's journeys and flies to scents brainwashed by the sun into exhaustion. He lies veined into stone, a fossil man. Behind him there is a crowd passingly bemused by a pavement trickster and quite indifferent to this very common sight of an old man asleep on the pavement. I thought it then a good composition and glibly called it the man in the street, remarking how typical it was of India that the man in the street lived here. His head in the posture of one weeping into a pillow chides me now for my presumption at attempting to compose art out of his hunger and solitude. So quite a detailed poem, and I just want to highlight a few bits. So this man, I have a picture I took in Bombay. He's an artist or a photographer, okay, who is away in Bombay, which is a city in India. And this poem is all about a beggar. It's all about this picture he took of a beggar who was asleep on the pavement. Now this beggar, obviously, isn't very well looked after, okay? So if we have a look at the fact that he's grey-haired, he wears shorts and a dirty shirt, okay? He's not very well looked after. We move on to the next stanza. Talking about his arms and legs could be cracks in the stone. So his arms and legs are sort of ruined, they're sore, they're dry. The fact that this man is brainwashed by the sun into exhaustion because he's got no shelter, and obviously India is very hot, he's been brainwashed by the sun. He's not with himself as much, you know, he's a bit not delusional, deluded, I don't know, just not quite right, not with himself, not mentally correct, I suppose, because of how much the exposure he has had to the sun. He then goes on to call him a fossil man. Now, a fossil is something that's really old, that has, it's all about rocks, basically. It's been compressed in a rock and it stays there and for like thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's like he's saying that this fossil man, this beggar, sorry, is essentially a fossil. He is stationary in this street. It's where he lives. He has sort of become part of it. We move on. Behind him there's a crowd passingly bemused by pavement trickster and quite indifferent to this very common sight. So indifferent to this common sight of an old man asleep. Indifferent means not bothered. If you're indifferent about something, you're not bothered about it. So the fact that there's masses of people walking by who are bothered, it shows us that this is a very common thing to happen. Okay? It's a very common sight. You go around Bombay, you go around India, and you see a lot of these beggars on the street. We move on. I thought it then a good composition and glibly called it the man in the street. So he took a picture of this man. He thought it was a good picture, so he called it the man in the street, remarking how typical it was of India that a man in the street lived here. It's typical. It's common for men to live in India like this who are beggars. his head in the posture of one weeping into a pillow. So his posture is like he's weeping into a pillow, that idea of sadness, not being able to do anything. He can't help himself. Okay. And here, this last bit's really nice because he's saying that he's attempting to compose art out of hunger and solitude. So this man is attempting to create a lovely art piece of this beggar man, but this beggar man, he's suffering from hunger and solitude. He's basically saying, maybe I shouldn't be taking a photo of this. Maybe rather than taking a picture of this, I should actually help him and find a way to help this man. So now I've gone through the poem with you, I'd like you, in a sentence, to tell me what you think the poem Decomposition is about. This is the main task for you today then. I'd like you to spend about half an hour doing this activity. I want you to draw an image of the picture that the speaker took in Bombay from the information of the poem. So it's all about the speaker taking a picture of a man, a beggar. I would like you to have a go at drawing that. Okay, it's just a nice activity. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'd love it if you could send me some pictures of these if you want to attach them to show my homework, or email me them. It'd be fantastic to see some of your pictures about this poem, especially if they're good, I can put them in the newsletter and I can put them up in my room. I think that'd be really nice. So once you've finished your picture, and you might want to send that to me, can you make sure you go back on to show my homework and complete the quiz for today's lesson? Have a wonderful day, Year 8.